What's going on, people? It's been a while since I did a video on this channel, but this channel is really just informal, just when I feel like doing content, not trying to have it. I mean, if it grows, it grows. It doesn't, it doesn't. But it was just I had a target for the asset Tezos. When I first did a video, I mentioned how it looked like BTC's chart, and that was not, a positive, development. And the pattern, well, the target has played out. I believe I posted it in Telegram's Telos chat room. I think it was in April. The price of Telos around at that time was around like 70 cents, 75 cents in that range. And I just posted a question. I was like, when Telos 25 cents? And I was basing off actually the trading view chart that doesn't have all of this data as this chart's Coin Trader Pro chart does. It has the entirety of the price action of Telos. And so, I posed that question: when will we see 25 cents off of, less data? But then when I looked at this chart, I was like, oh, well, the 86 is at 17 cents. So you'll probably see 17, 18 cents before you see any type of real value, any, potentially you'll go along on this asset. What I would look for, go along on this asset. And right now, the last few days, we have hit that target. And now, looking at the chart, we're going to use the trading view chart, see if we have any advantage, any divergence or anything that's signaling maybe a potential, pivot. When you look at the daily MACD, no, you don't. You don't have any, you don't have a situation where you have any bullish divergence. That would be where you had negative momentum, some positive momentum, and then a lower low with slightly elevated, less negative momentum on the second low. You don't have that on the daily. And you kind of do have it on your RSI. So that's a positive development. I was looking at maybe you were developing a channel like to the downside, downsloping channel, something like this. Kind of seems valid as a pattern. And you do have that daily RSI bullish divergence. And you're just, not only you have the divergence, but you were just so oversold on the RSI. It just has took any significant loss of value within the last, like I said, I started talking about this in April. Let's say even 70 in like the last 2 months. April, May, June, 2 months you're down 72%. So what I'm expecting now is, and I was saying this in a group, that taking some positions, DCAing in at these levels wouldn't be too crazy if you didn't go like all in, because you do have a slight advantage to the upside, but not anything like tremendously significant. And not only that, I'm going to look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't have really an advantage right now. It is 786 and bounced, and I'll show you that in a minute. But right now you have this channel that if you could break out of it, you could see potentially using your high to low This is really just the wave. Now I'm going to do from the, let me do from this last peak before you broke out of this, your that pattern. You could see, you know, if you could break out of this channel, you could see a potential 382, 50% or 618 fib retracement rally to the upside. It wouldn't be shocking to me to see 50 cents again, simply because 50 cents was that critical like support that was broken. You could see how we were testing that area multiple times, and when you finally broke it, you just, you know, nuke through, and then you consolidate and it sold off more. So 50 cents is kind of my target for right now, to see some type of rally. You know, this is all contingent on if Bitcoin can, you know, sustain the bounce it's currently has done. I'm looking at BTC. I did a video on this, you know, when I created this channel a few months ago. I was expecting, you know, the target to me is between the 12 to 14K range. And that, you know, target hasn't changed, but you won't go straight down. In these assets, you will have rallies to the upside. And looking at the weekly for BTC, I actually have it on the Coinbase chart. Believe it or yeah, have fibs already planted from the COVID low to the November high. And I was, you know, pointing this out on Twitter that, you know, we hit the 76 fib. And I was, you know, asking the question, will it hold? And right now it is holding. I was expecting it to hold, not just because we hit the fib, but we were near critical, what's now a critical support. It's actually the 2017 weekly candle close support. We didn't close below it. We're using it as support right now. And so I'm expecting, you know, a bigger rally to the upside before we see, you know, more negative price action. And just like how we did with Telos, using the local high from that last consolidation to the low, you can get some targets from that using your fibs. And in this range, really from, you know, from like 30K to about this, you know, 19,000 or like 400 area, there's really not much resistance, really just open space. So getting back into these levels wouldn't be that shocking, because there's not much resistance in this area. If you look left, you know, look at the daily real quick, and you look left from your previous cycle, there's really no major resistance. It's just like a straight down, straight up type of situation. I mean, you could really rise all the way up to 28,000 before you see, you know, any significant downside, and that would be a tremendous rally to the upside for most people. Would probably get, you know, a lot of people believing that this was the bottom, and, you know, we're going to see higher upside, and it just be a retest of that resistance. But, you know, going back to the 4-hour to look at your fibs, potential targets, you know, the 618 is really an area where you do see Bitcoin and, you know, your bear rallies actually rally too. But anywhere from the 382 to 50% or the 618 are potential targets for, you know, this bounce off of the 786. You did have some 4-hour bullish divergence that's starting to play out. You're actually starting to create some hidden bear divergence if you start stalling here. So that's something you got to watch out for. You did hit 382, which is signaling that this is potentially a bottom. So you could consolidate maybe, and then, make a higher low, and then, run to the upside again. So do something like, you know, sell off a little bit, back test this as release, as support, and then, start hitting these upper fibs. I mean, that's typically what happens in these, when you have these type of sell-offs. But, looking at the daily, this one has me a little bit more cautious. When you look at the MACD and the RSI, there's no, you have no advantage right now. And so, since that's the fact, and I actually had the wrong tool on, that's why I wasn't performing well. Since that's the fact right now, as far as you have no divergence, no other major advantage, take any rally with a grain of salt. As for now, I don't believe the bottom's in. Like I said, my targets are much lower. I think this is a longer process. It typically takes about 300 days to see a bottom. And I think it's like 350 days actually to see the ultimate bottom. And, in BTC before, we see, that's just the ultimate bottom. That doesn't mean that you'll see a new top within 350 days after that day. No, that's just to make the bottom. Delete this real quick. And so just keep that in mind if you're like, oh, this is the bottom, and there's really just no advantage. We're getting basically going through a period right now where basically like a relief rally. You've been selling off for 224 days. And so you're not even at the average. So when you bottom out, that will be 350 days, I believe is in September or October. So this thing's gonna take time, and the targets are still lower. You might just, like I said, go sideways for a few weeks, few months before we see more downside. Because on a weekly, even on a weekly, you're oversold at the lowest point on your RSI ever. You can see that better on like the Bitstamp chart because there's more data than Coinbase. And the real chart is really the BLX to see, all the data. But this is definitely the lowest the RSI has ever been on the weekly, closed on the weekly 25, 26 area. Just doesn't look, still just not bullish. And this has a major gap. Wow, how does this get a gap? It's interesting. This gap is probably going to get filled. So 26K is my, if this is accurate, 26K is my target before we see any more downside. But these fibs are actually from using the all-time low on this chart of 1 cent, 1 penny to the all-time high of 69K, I believe, on this chart, 68,944. And I'm using that now because you have hit that previous cycle high. You never done that in the history of, BTC. So that's signaling the, on this chart, the 11-year plus, bull run and cryptocurrency with BTC. That's signaling the end of this run. And so just like I, use fibs for my targets for Telos, using fibs for my target for BTC. The next fib is 14,754. That's the 786 on this chart. And I mean, you could be seeing the 886, which is around 7,800 and basically $60. So there's seems to be a lot more pain coming. In the monthly, we're not oversold or anything like that. You did have monthly bearish divergence on your RSI. Just doesn't look promising right now. The be a bull, I've been saying that since November. Called the top. Call, not just the top in crypto, but also in, the NASDAQ, warning people to get out. Most markets for, a couple months from November to January, people didn't listen till it was too late. And now people, everybody's calling crypto a scam again. And, you got all these people that weren't in the market, coming back saying how, they've been trying to warn people for years that, crypto is not a good asset to, put money in. And it's like, okay, if you've been telling people for years, let's just say you've been telling them for the last 2 years. I mean, 2 years ago we're in June 2020. What's today, the 20th? I mean, Bitcoin was at 9K. So you were telling for years, you're still up, more than double of their initial, investment. I mean, it's just, people trade with their emotions, and, nobody's wrong. They're always right. They don't know what they're talking about, but they're always right when it comes to, investing and stuff like that. But, it's just funny to me. I could go on a whole tour and share messages of, all the arguments and all the takes that people were telling me how, I don't know how to do TA and, and all that other foolishness, but I really just don't care. It's just, I study these charts for, financial advantage. And, I'm heavily involved right now on the tech side with coming out with my own platform and things in that nature. But, we're just in a bear market. And I'm not saying that, BTC will see 100K next cycle, or we'll even see a new high next cycle, because that's not guaranteed. All I'm saying is at some point you will most likely, and I can kind of prove this point looking at Bitcoin's the CME futures. Just looking at the futures chart, I don't even know I got this here. I think I got it as a target, but this is the chart most institutions are using. They're trading Bitcoin because they're trading the futures market. And there's gaps. There's gaps. There's a gap that hasn't been filled on this chart between 18,720 to basically 19,140. I mean, if you have a gap on this chart, most gaps get filled. There's a gap all the way down here below 10K. And so I'm expecting these gaps to be filled at some point. I believe there's a gap around 7,700. Not mistaken. I'll have to go back. There's this 4,000. There's the gap at 9,000 that wasn't filled. I believe there was a gap at 7,000. If I'm not mistaken, I might be mistaken then. Oh yeah, it's very, very minuscule, but it was never filled. And I took a mental note of this when it happened. And I expect this gap to get filled at some point, and this is why I looked at that BLX chart and fibbed it. And the BLX chart is saying the 86 is at 75, basically 7,600, and we got a gap here at 76.25 to 76.50. So I won't. I mean, you got gaps that low, but also the main reason why I was bringing this up was the fact that you got gaps higher now, and those gaps will be filled. And so, everybody is saying like, yo, you never see this price. Listen, these people don't know what they're talking about, honestly. But you have a gap, in the 35K range. Now, at some point, this gap will be filled, will be, from this 76, bounce, or will it be in 2 years from now? I don't know, the time frame, but at some point it will be filled. And so that's what I'm saying, like, just be wary who you're listening to. Understand that right now in a market where you're just severely oversold, multiple higher time scales, the likelihood of seeing more upside is more probable than seeing more downside. But it's not going to be a fast and euphoric ride. It probably will be methodical and boring. If we do get a significant bounce here, maybe we don't. Maybe we just, as of now, just chop around and make that lower low. Anything's possible. You got to be open to that. Still not seeing any, major value right now with Bitcoin, because we're just not seeing any, seller exhaustion on a major time scale. You're not seeing any accumulation patterns. You're not seeing any patterns yet. So this is what I'm seeing in these markets. I was right with Telos. I mean, if you're viewing this content, hopefully you understand. By now, I know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm not just saying stuff to say it. This is how you use traditional technical analysis to get a better advantage in these markets and to prosper. I hope the people in the Tlos group that you did heed my warning and got out of this market, and now you could be getting, you could start accumulating in. You don't have, like I said, I wouldn't be going all in simply because there's no advantage on BTC. There's no advantage on Tlos right now. This is a slight advantage, but not something I'm really too excited about. You are in a zone of support. That's positive. This is being used as support now. But, really, until I do another one of these videos on this channel, hope you're, bettering yourself. Get into like the tech side, because really cryptocurrencies is not going anywhere. You start learning how to make, NFTs, how to start reading smart contracts, start, making your own smart contracts. It could be very lucrative. It's a very fast growing industry. I'm really diving into that side a lot more. I probably would do a video of the platform I'm coming out with, kind of mocking the, calls that crypto is dead and stuff like that. It's a gaming platform. It's not, not the games of creating just new games, kind of incorporating old games and monetizing giving a chance to monetize those games. Have tournaments, have rooms where you can wager on your skills in those games that you probably already play for free. But there will also be in the future like VR games coming out on the platform, and I'll probably do a video on that very soon. probably within the next few weeks, but really to the next update. Um, Peace.